Ben here, and in this video we're going to discuss food sensitivities and why they might be the root cause of your brain fog and depression, the difference between food sensitivities, food intolerances and food allergies and why it matters, what causes them, but more importantly, how to get your body, brain and life back. This is a mini masterclass, so grab a coffee and let's dive in.
Work harder, run faster, think smarter. The hustle until you die culture is killing us. Millions are stressed and depressed. I was one of them. I went on a 90-day mission to biohack my way back to health. The result? My best-selling book Unstoppable, daily journal, an online program that's changed thousands of lives and is praised by athletes, psychologists, and doctors. And now, it's your turn to become unstoppable.
If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben and I've helped tens of thousands biohack their way out of depression, fatigue and stress into optimal health. Before we begin, I want to let you know that we're giving away a free digital gut health report and 2 free chapters from my brand new book, Mind Control, that explores the latest in nutritional psychology and the gut microbiome, including food sensitivities. So if you have unexplained fatigue, anxiety, depression, weight gain, or you're constantly catching colds and flus, stick around till the very end for details. Food sensitivities is one of the most confusing topics for many. A lot of people who are experiencing brain fog, depression and digestive issues will take a food sensitivity test to get back a long list of foods that they should avoid. Instead of feeling like they're getting answers, they're left saying, what the f should I eat? And if you've been watching a lot of videos on this topic, you most likely notice that they're contradictory in nature. They either advocate for a food sensitivity test or tell you to avoid it. There's also confusion around what a food sensitivity is versus a food allergy and a food intolerance. And rarely is it broken down for you in simple terms to help you understand how food sensitivities can mimic and even cause depression and trigger brain fog, and what you should do about it. So in this video, I'm gonna cut through the BS to make it easy for you. But first, let me say, I understand where you're coming from. I've struggled with food sensitivities. They're debilitating. You'll go to sit down at your desk and you'll have trouble focusing on your computer due to brain fog. Reading a book is generally out of the question, and you may even notice, like in my case, your speech slows down, because you're desperately trying to construct cohesive sentences, but the words and the ideas just aren't coming quickly enough. Thankfully, there's relief and there's also reasons as to why those symptoms occur. But first of all, we need to take a different approach. So let's begin this conversation by discussing the differences between a food allergy, food intolerance, and a food sensitivity. The first and the most serious is a food allergy. This occurs when the body forms an immune response to food ingredients and creates an antibody called immunoglobulin E, or IgE, which is easier to pronounce. IgE reacts against the allergen, causing your body to release chemicals that cause symptoms such as itching, sneezing, congestion, asthma, coughing, and in severe cases, anaphylaxis, which is of course life-threatening. 2. Food intolerance. A food intolerance is where you lack the specific enzymes needed to break down and absorb specific ingredients. Common food intolerances are sugar, dairy, and gluten, and they're typically pretty easy to identify. 3. Food sensitivity. An individual has an adverse physical response to a certain food or ingredient. This also involves an inappropriate immune response. The symptoms may only be digestive, but can lead to fatigue, brain fog due to inflammation which hinders energy production in neurons, making it hard for them to communicate, hence the brain slows down and it's more easily fatigued. Respiratory issues such as asthma, headaches and migraines, eczema, acne, psoriasis, joint aches and pains, general inflammation, depression, anxiety, and even sadness. Admittedly, they're easy to get confused because the symptoms overlap, although it's far easier to identify and rule out an allergy and an intolerance versus a food sensitivity. Dr. Alessio Fasano, director of the Center for Celiac Research and Treatment at Harvard-affiliated Massachusetts General Hospital, says, Food sensitivity is simply a sign your digestive system is changing. Well, our data also backs this up. In surveying over 50,000 people and collecting 1.5 million pieces of data, which forms the basis for your free online gut health report, we found out that people who were also suffering depression, anxiety, loss of drive and focus were also far more likely to exhibit the following gut health related symptoms, including alternating constipation, diarrhea, bloating, changes in metabolism, increased rates of obesity, being more prone to an unhealthy diet, high sugar and carb cravings, which feed the bad bacteria. They also have trouble sleeping. They never wake up feeling refreshed and good to go. So how does this happen? Well, for example, after a 3-month trip that I did around the US, my own gut bacteria became imbalanced. I exhibited all of the symptoms. I also started developing food sensitivities that I hadn't previously had before, caffeine being one of them. It literally kneecapped my cognition. I couldn't focus. I couldn't get my work done, and I was thinking about a change in careers, which I couldn't do because I really couldn't work properly at the time. I could only do a couple of hours of solid work in the morning before I was a complete write-off by the afternoon. Worse yet, a course of antibiotics compounded these problems even further by killing off good and bad gut bacteria that are essential for overall well-being as well as mental health. As I discuss in my new book, Mind Control, everything is inexplicably linked back to our gut health. Our gut communicates to our brain via the vagus nerve. With over 100 million nerve cells that line our intestinal walls, it's no wonder that when we disrupt the bacteria in this region with antibiotics, poor diet, painkillers, and a toxic environment, it creates this neuropsychiatric effect, influencing our mood and mental health, which is why addressing not just food sensitivities, but gut health becomes an urgent part of your plan, especially if you're exhibiting any of the symptoms that we've just run through. Disruptions to the gut microbiome could be related to an increase in food sensitivities, depression, and anxiety. And here are the top 7 triggers. 1. Increased levels of stress. 2. Depression, which could be a cause of a gut imbalance, thereby leading to sensitivities or vice versa. Studies have shown people with depression have altered gut bacteria. 3. International travel, an introduction of an unwanted strain or pathogen. 4. A course of antibiotics that kills off good bacteria as well as bad, resulting in a lack of microbial diversity and a presence of pathogens, of which sugars and carbs feed these. Keep an eye out for my video dedicated to antibiotics coming up. 5. Environmental triggers such as toxins. 6. Sleep loss. This is fascinating. Studies show that adults who had standard sleeping patterns then were exposed to sleep disruption for 2 days, only sleeping for 4.5 hours, caused their gut microbiome to become dysbiotic or impaired. 7. Some suggest a major factor is a natural weakening of our intestinal lining that leads to tiny leaks, thereby leading to inflammation. Food sensitivities, food intolerances, and food allergies are easily confused, but food sensitivities are somewhat more insidious because they're harder to diagnose because they're a symptom of an underlying problem. You can remove the trigger foods, but that doesn't mean you've addressed the underlying cause, which could be an imbalanced gut. Which leads me to this question: are food sensitivity tests accurate, and should you take one? As you know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the accuracy of food sensitivity tests, such as what causes a specific response to specific foods. Among medical researchers, limited research, vague terminology with conflicting definitions of allergies versus intolerance versus sensitivities, gaps in research, and arguably the inherent discomfort of the unknown all play a role in this. Some tests measure antibodies in the blood, such as the IgG tests, and since IgG is a memory antibody, it only confirms exposure to a food, not necessarily a reaction to it. You may be fascinated to learn that an IgG test is also administered when detecting viral infections such as the COVID-19 antibody test, which indicates if the person has already had the virus. Other tests are centered on studying white blood cells as an indicator of an inflammatory response, including the ALCAT test and the enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, or ELISA. So should you take a food sensitivity test? I've taken one in the past, and I've even interviewed the founder of Everly Well about their food sensitivity. And while it did help me to uncover 2 trigger foods, this despite all of the evidence that I just presented to you, I still remain skeptical. The problem, first of all, is I don't know if it was a lucky coincidence, knowing what I now know. But secondly, simply removing those foods don't address the underlying problem. A gut imbalance that could also be preventing you from absorbing nutrients that are vital for your healthy brain function, such as magnesium, vitamin D, and B6, in which deficiencies of any of these can cause depression as well as anxiety. Poor gut health can also impact the production of key neurotransmitters, such as serotonin, which is of course produced in the gut. After writing my new book, Mind Control, in which we interviewed top gut health experts from various industries, I now believe a gut health test to be far more appropriate, in which you send a small sample then await your lab results. Why? As discussed, the gut has been implicated in food sensitivities by taking a test and looking at your lab results to identify specific strains of bacteria that you're lacking in and which ones you need to focus on. You can develop a more detailed plan moving forward, and you can take the guesswork out of the equation. I give my recommendation for the specific test in the free gut health report, so check out the link below. This will help you a lot. My own gut health test, that indicated that I was low in a strain called bacteroids, which have been implicated in depression. I was suffering severe depression at the time. It was one of many factors. I'm not saying it was the only factor. It was one of many that you need to also rule out. By taking the test, it suddenly became easy for me to target precisely which probiotics I needed and foods to consume, helping to speed up my recovery. With all of this in mind, how do you A, identify food sensitivity, then B, start to heal your gut microbiome to help alleviate brain fog, depression, anxiety, and all of the other symptoms that come along with a sensitivity? Well, first you must realize that if you originally thought your depression or anxiety was a result of negative thinking alone, but instead it's potentially a symptom of a gut imbalance, understand that in this instance, doesn't matter how much self-help work you do, it won't last. Trust me, I've tried it. In fact, if your gut is imbalanced and you're having trouble absorbing key nutrients for good brain health, your symptoms will unfortunately get worse over time if you don't start with the foundation, your gut health. But what happens if you don't address your gut health issues and alter your diet? You may experience even more symptoms such as hormonal changes, more negative behavioral changes. If these are sustained for a lengthy period of time, you're literally creating negative neural pathways that will be exhaustively harder to reprogram in the future. This also means that if you're still experiencing these symptoms, self-help, emotional control become even harder because your brain isn't in a healthy, functioning state due to malabsorption and inflammation. You may feel better momentarily when you do those exercises, but it's not going to last. Hence, your emotions and your energy levels are going to be like a roller coaster ride, and you're most likely dying to get off. You'll also go ahead and remove certain trigger foods, but other food sensitivities may present themselves over time if you don't reset your gut. To help, here are 7 steps that you can take to kick off your own journey. Steps that I've gone through myself. 1, you can take our free online quiz to get your free digital gut health report. More on this shortly. 2, keep a food journal and identify possible trigger foods and do an elimination diet. Do 1 food at a time so you can precisely pinpoint which foods are causing you the most harm right now. 3, look at the past 72 hours. If you suddenly have an onset of symptoms, ask yourself, what did I eat in the past 72 hours that's out of the norm for your typical diet? And note, how do you feel? energetically as well as emotionally. 4. Take a gut health test to identify specific strains of bacteria you're lacking. 5. Once you understand the lab work, reintroduce the healthy strains immediately, ideally through a recommended blend of probiotics after taking a test or consuming fermented foods that provide a nourishing environment for your good bacteria to thrive. Foods such as kefir, yogurt, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, and miso are all examples of fermented foods, but you do need to be aware just because they are fermented, it doesn't mean they contain live strains, which is essential to your healing. 6, start cleaning up your diet by significantly reducing sugars and carbs. 7, daily meditation to reduce stress. Meditation hypnosis has been shown to help people with IBS symptoms. By introducing healthy strains of bacteria, people can reduce symptoms of depression. This can also be done by taking mood-enhancing strains of probiotics, such as PS 1-8 or PS 2-3. You'll notice I didn't pronounce them, they're too damn hard. Or you can take a targeted probiotic blend containing these, but see your free gut health report for my recommendations on which one to take. Clinical studies have shown that taking probiotics regularly has been shown to reduce depression and especially social anxiety. Once a food sensitivity has been identified, you've removed it from your diet and you're healing your gut, you should be able to reintroduce those foods at a later stage, but you need to do it gradually and keep a diary of how you're feeling when you do it. Thankfully, the great news is that addressing these issues is literally life-changing. You're going to notice your brain fog lift, your mood and digestive symptoms improve pretty quickly. You're also going to have more energy to do the things that you love, feel sharper mentally, and in cases of our members, get back to your ideal weight because you've solved problems few know how to truly address and few know how to truly target. So now that you understand the difference between food sensitivities, food intolerances, and food allergies, you understand the gut's role in depression, the accuracy of food sensitivity tests, plus a lot more we've covered in this video. As you can imagine, that's really just the start, because you want to use these lessons to start to repair your gut, your mind, and your mood ASAP, which is why I've created a free digital gut health report that will help you to identify your likelihood of obesity, fatigue, digestive distress, carb cravings, plus much more, based on our survey of over 50,000 people and 1.5 million pieces of data from around the globe that we collected in this gigantic survey. This gut health report is designed to help you close the gap from knowing to actually doing. Why? Well, I understand personally that mental health is a complex web of various different components that most people often overlook, including my own doctors in my own case, and especially food sensitivities. This free report is going to help you to start pull the missing pieces together. Then, to help you even further, we're also going to give you the introduction and 2 free chapters from my brand new book, Mind Control: How to Biohack Your Weight, Mind and Immune System using nutritional psychology and the gut microbiome. Mind Control is the follow-up to my bestseller, Unstoppable. The one best self-help book of 2020 was translated into 2 different languages. It sold over 70,000 copies. Unstoppable has also been praised by doctors, psychologists, nutritionists, as well as athletes, which is why I'm so excited to present to you the follow-up Mind Control, because it's going to help you to take back control of your mood, understand why you eat, what you eat, why we're physically full but emotionally empty, the missing micronutrients and your starving brain, the best diets for treating depression, anxiety and fatigue, and various gut health issues, plus so much more. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by dietary advice that's conflicting in nature. Mind Control's aim is to really take the pain out of this and reveal to you the most up-to-date research in these fields. So if you're interested in your free gut health report and sample chapters from Mind Control, the link is in the description below. If you like this video, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell and tell us, which of the food sensitivities symptoms do you most identify with? Leave a comment below. You're not the only one struggling with them. For now, I can't wait to see you in the next video. Take care.